You're listening to The Secrets of Sacred Art, where we unearth the hidden treasures, history, and deeper meanings in religious and sacred art. We're your hosts, Kathryn Laffrey.
And I'm Alix Murray. Welcome to episode 28, Celtic Crosses, Untangling the Sacred Mystery. In this episode, we will explore the art and images of Celtic high crosses and the fascinating information they hold for anyone who knows how to find it. Please follow The Secrets of Sacred Art in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. For a fuller experience, you can join us on the SQPN YouTube channel, where you can see all the images we are discussing on the show. You can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X at SQPN, or on Instagram at StarQuest Network. So hello, Kathryn. You ready for this one?
All these things we have to untangle.
I know. This has been, so we're kind of leading up to, this is the penultimate Celtic deep dive episode for us. And this one was really, it was really interesting there was just so much information, and to try to kind of condense it down into something in an hour where it's going to make sense was a little bit of a challenge. But I think we're learning so much. I learned so much on this one, and so did you. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned is how connected Christendom was. We just don't appreciate how connected everyone really was through their faith, and it's something that it just, the more you deep dive into this, the more you learn about these Irish Catholic monks and what they did and how they evangelized and where they drew inspiration. It's just incredible. It's just incredible.
And they seemed very well traveled.
They were very well traveled, and they were very well educated, and they were very well supplied with all kinds of materials and different things. So anyway, so that's what we're going to learn about today. And the monks who created the Celtic cross, or the high cross, is another way. That's another term that is used. Interestingly, those are the terms that I found when I was looking for things on Celtic crosses that were coming out of Ireland and Scotland. So they're called high crosses. And they drew their inspiration from the local culture as well as from the larger Christian culture, as I said, in Europe and in the Near East. And the connection between the Celts in Britain and the early church go all the way back to the New Testament. Did you know that?
Okay.
Yeah. So I had heard this years ago, but it was confirmed. So in my research and everything. So the European Celts are thought to actually have originated in France. And they were called the Gauls, but they were also known as the Galatians.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you can see
like
that
the Galatians from Galatians?
Yes.
Okay,
Those are the Celts.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that.
Yes, now I've heard that before, years and years ago. But yes, so these are the same people. And of course, again, they were traveling, moving around. So these are the origins of the Galatians are the same origins of the Celts. So they were all kind of the same people. And so they go all the way back to the New Testament. And so when I was going through this, and I guess if we want to look at some of these, maybe if you want to bring up one of the slides or two. Is that the first slide?
Yeah.
Okay. So this, what I wanted to show here, this is like so these two stones or crosses are from Scotland. And the first one is, you kind of mentioned that it looked like the Maltese cross.
Yes. The one with the happy little monk walking about
I
on
know.
top of it.
I love that monk. And do you want to know what that monk looks a lot like? If you go back to, I want to say it was the Lindisfarne Gospel episode. It might have been the one before that. There was an image from one of the insular manuscripts that was believed to have been drawn by Saint Columcille. And it was of one of the Gospels. It kind of looks like it looks like him, doesn't it?
It does. It looks a lot like him.
Yeah.
Yes. He's just so cute. I'm sorry. He's adorable.
I know. And do you know what? It's interesting because he's a monk, and so he's got his little robe on, or his little tunic, but it looks like he's holding a crosier, so he could be an abbot or a bishop even, and he's just walking, and you had even said it's like he's walking around the world, like he's going out and he's evangelizing. It's a really simple image, but certainly not easy to carve in stone, and I'm sure we've lost some of the details over all of the centuries that it's been out and exposed to some pretty harsh weather, but nevertheless, so this is one of the first ones. The second one is really interesting.
Well, I just got to say one thing about the Maltese cross on there. Looking at it, the first thought I had was feeling like how close these monks were to St. Paul in some way. Because of St. Paul being shipwrecked in Malta. Yeah. It just made it feel like, yes, there's like this strong closeness. I just loved how that made me feel.
That connection, like we're just one big family. And of course, back then, they weren't looking at the world in terms of national, they didn't have sort of these lines divided in terms of nations. They didn't have nation states in medieval times, and certainly in early medieval times. They looked at the world in terms of Christendom. This is the world of Christians. And And the second slide is really interesting. I thought this almost looks Greek to me. And maybe it's because it does have the Alpha and Omega. They're bringing in the Greek letters of Alpha and Omega. So the Omega is obviously the circle around the cross, and the Alpha is the little arrow. I think either at the bottom of the cross or in the middle of it. But anyway, so that's the so those are some local influences, and let's take a look at some more. So here's some more influences. This is really fascinating. So the first one is a Coptic curtain from the 5th or 6th century. So this is Egyptian, and of course you look at it, and the first thing you think is that looks like a Celtic cross, and it does. And
the base, the styling, it feels like it. The only thing that feels different is that laurel-looking wreath with all the fruit around it. Yeah.
But it could be, the decorated arches of the Celtic cross. And again, this really, we know that the arches have a function, to strengthen the Celtic crosses. But if they were influenced by Egyptian crosses, then that again kind of dismisses that idea that it was some kind of pagan innovation of, incorporating sun worship. That doesn't make any sense. It's a design. I mean,
when I see the circle, the first thing I think of is it's a architectural thing. If a building is circular, it's meant for adoration. And then that circle also represents the oneness of God. And so it's just seeing the circle and the cross just makes sense to me. Yeah. The other thing that's interesting about the Coptic curtain is you see the smaller little crosses in the void between the circle and the cross. Yeah. And then that makes me think of the Jerusalem cross. Yeah. So the Jerusalem cross is very balanced symmetrically. So you have like the up and down arm and the side to side arm, same length. And then in between you have the smaller little crosses. So this is feeling like you're connecting Jerusalem, the Coptic region, and the northern islands of it's all coming together in just one big swoop.
Yeah, they clearly were in communication with each other. You know, I mean, I think there's sometimes like when you go, oh, I see these things and they're in common, therefore these people must have somehow been in communication with each other. Well, you know, a pointed roof in like the Andes and a pointed roof in Switzerland, that doesn't mean these people met up with each other. It's like there's a lot of snow where they are, and this is the most practical way of dealing with it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But with this, we know through the art and also through writings and through the scriptures that they were all using, they knew about each other, you know. And the cross on the right, of course, I just put that there to show, you know, this is a Celtic cross, and the similarities are very, very strong. Yeah. So let's look at some more. Oh, I got this one because I thought you'd love this, Kathryn. So
the carpet page.
Yes, the carpet page, and also another term for the carved crosses when they weren't like standalone, freestanding, if that makes any sense. They're called slab crosses, and this was a slab cross. Sometimes they were used as grave markers, and other times not. You know, they were used in as part of the architecture of the church or whatever. But this one is Saint Bertric's cross slab, and this was a saint in Ireland. I do have a link, I think, and some information about him. He's fascinating, but I just had to, like I said, there's just so much to go through you know, just encourage our viewers to go and read a little bit on who he was. But this is from the 7th century. The Lindisfarne Gospel, the carpet page from the Lindisfarne Gospel is right next to it, and you know, you can see this was a common motif. This was something that they were, you know, using for a long time, and in different mediums. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Seeing it carved is lovely, and I think what I like about carved images like this is just that textile, or you know, the ability to just touch and tactile, get that tactile feel.
Yes.
I mean, if I saw this, we probably wouldn't want you to all touch it because you wear it away, but I would just want to trace my fingers along it.
Exactly. Well, do you know what? It really depends. Like, you know, you can, you know, they're happy for you to turn the pages of the Lindisfarne Gospel with your bare hands. So you could, you know, maybe touch something like that. And I'm just noticing there are 4 circles on each corner of the cross, which is interesting. They look like they have been rubbed away, actually. So who knows? Okay. Yeah, very interesting. But you can definitely see, I think this is called the wine goblet cross, because it looks like little wine goblets.
The way the shapes are, Yeah, you can see the goblet shape,
Exactly. And and then we've got the next one coming up. So this is, everyone should be familiar with this one. This is the St. Martin's cross on Iona. And you had asked me about this. And so I did a little bit of research on it. And what I find interesting is, so I think I had mentioned before that St. Columbkill had a devotion to St. Martin of Tours, who was the bishop in France. And I believe he was a martyr. My apologies. I'm sure he was a martyr, actually. He's the one who divided his cloak as a soldier.
Yes. Yep.
So this is the Saint Martin of Tours, and I found this incredible quote from I think this is from the Life of Saint Columbkill, which was written by his successor on Iona when he was writing about his life. I think his name was Saint Artemin or something. He talks about when St. Columbkill went to France and he visited the tomb of St. Martin of Tours. And so here's the quote. Then Columbkill went on a pilgrimage to Tours of Martin, and he went to the flagstone whereunder Martin was buried, and he lifted the stone from the tomb, and he found the book of Gospels upon the neck of Martin in the tomb. And Martin and that book had been 100 years in the earth, and God had kept the book that while for the use of Columbkill, so that it had been no better on its first day than in that hour. And by the will of God of Martin, Columbkill took that book with him to Derry, as Martin himself at the time of his death had prophesied that Columbkill should bring it.
What?
I know. So I just wonder if that book of Gospels, which is lost to time, I just wonder if that served as some kind of, again, inspiration for the book, for all of these insular Gospels. Yeah. We don't know what was in that book.
They weren't making it up as they went along.
They weren't making it up. And also, when you think about how St. Martin of Tours traveled and the connectedness of the Roman Empire to all of Europe. And so I think we just don't know. You had mentioned you felt like, well, in fact, why don't you just share what your first impressions when you were looking at these insular manuscripts?
Yeah, this was quite some time ago when you and I were looking at them. And gosh, a couple of years ago now. And I just remember one of the first things that came to mind when I was looking at it is how strongly they resembled a lot of Egyptian Coptic work. And it just to me, just looking at it, you could feel the connection that yes, these were done knowing about each other.
Exactly.
The shared, especially when you look at old manuscripts that all date around within 100 years of each other. And you can look at one from, Eastern Europe or down in Mesopotamian areas, and they all have that feeling as if they sat in the same room together and worked on them.
Yeah, and I think they probably did. So, can you pause it?
Yes.
Because can you hear these dogs? Yeah, so there was definitely a connection, and I do find it so fascinating, the power of evangelizing. The people who evangelized these areas, they went out, they followed through with the commission of Christ, and it shows through the art. This is the thing. It shows in the art. Don't try to, they weren't, as you said, they weren't pulling these ideas out of thin air.
Right.
They were rooted, and they were trying to communicate. And what was beautiful is they were communicating with people in a way that they could understand in their culture. And that is something that should be an inspiration to artists today.
Yes.
What's
really neat to look at is that center picture where you see those 5 circles on the cross.
Yeah.
And modern day image that a lot of people can relate to is the Paschal candle.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It feels like just a continuation from this imagery right into the candle every Easter. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And this, the other thing that I'm kind of amazed at with this, it's still standing.
Right.
It's like been outside on not a very friendly island, weather-wise.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be quite, and it's still there, and you can just see the worn images. And we're going to talk about these images as well. So these are a couple of other images that I wanted to talk about in terms of the variety of crosses. These come from the Isle of Man, and it's the 7th and 8th century. Again, they were early. They're slab crosses, so they're not kind of, the background has not been cut away or whatever. And so just take a look at these. A lot of these, and we'll see. And I have a couple of images from the Isle of Man, and you can see how, as the Vikings who had been visiting the area for a time, how they started to be Christianized. And you can see it in some of these crosses. Now, the one to the left, Kathryn, I want you to take a look at this one. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I think there are some runic, the runes, the information is written in runes.
Yes.
Which is interesting. And, but this one, apparently, this is a Chi-Rho. Now, I don't want to tell you how long I've been staring at this. I cannot see Chi-Rho.
What?
I don't know. I think the circle in the top is the row, and maybe one of the crosses is the Chi. So here, I'm putting this out. If any of our viewers can figure out where the Chi-Rho is on this, I would love to know, because I don't know.
I'm actually like looking at another view of it closer up on another screen, and I'm still going, okay, I see the circle with the 4 or 6 pointed star flower.
Yeah, or flower, yeah.
Yeah. And then the crosses below it.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in between them.
Yeah, well, that looks like something, it's been damaged or
yeah, it's been damaged. So it's like, okay. And, it's like, okay,
I don't see it. I've looked at it, and then I read, like I was reading. I do have the link for this one in the show notes. So obviously someone can go back to the show notes, read through it again, see if you can find it. We would absolutely love to know if you could find it. So that's a little bit of a mystery for us.
Yeah. The 6 petal image, you see stuff similar to that.
Yeah.
With pomegranate blossoms.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is this talking about 6 days of creation?
I don't know. And of course, the other thing is, there's an inscription all around the circle part, and then along both crosses. Now, that could be giving us information that you and I can't read that,
right.
Because it's runic. But other than that, I was lost on that one. But I just thought I'm going to put it up there because maybe somebody will see something that we don't.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah.
It is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, as I said, you can see these slab crosses, and these are just like out in a little covered shelter. I think they're going to, I think there was a grant that was awarded to wherever these are. So they're going to be now in like a proper building.
So they were just displayed in a little half shelter out in the open?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I mean, to be honest, they've been out in the open for a long time.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I like the display, how they did it, the little stone path and everything below was nice.
It is. And so this is the Isle of Man, which is actually not part of, it's not Britain. It's not part of the British Isles. It's its own country. Because
I'm going to ask you, where is it? Exactly.
It's off. I'm just going to say it's off the coast of Britain. It's so
with
funny.
Every other island off the coast of Britain. East or West Coast.
Exactly. Do you know? Direction. I'm gonna maybe West Coast. My husband's family. Part of his family comes from this island, and
he just might be out with the in-laws.
I know. Can't remember. Sorry.
Right.
But yeah,
maybe one of our viewers will send me a map, because Alex always puts maps on there.
I know for you to find out where you are. So okay, so I think I've got another one that's really interesting. This is again from the Isle of Man, and this is called Grimm's Cross, and it's a slab cross. You can see on the edge, on the far right image, there's some runic letters there, and I think this is so cool.
Nice.
And definitely the link to this is in the show notes. This is one of those great 3D scans of this cross, so you can move it all around. You zoom in, zoom out. It's nice. Very, very cool. And this is obviously Christ crucified. In the middle. He's robed, and he is robed often in early Northern European medieval imagery. And I have a cross from Norway, or a crucifixion from Norway, and he is robed, and I think he is robed in glory.
Okay.
And yeah. And so he doesn't seem to be nailed to the cross. He's just kind of standing there, but it's, that could just be a practical thing. And you can see the Celtic knots, but this is a Scandinavian, cross, in that they believe it was made by and for a Viking convert.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say it does have more of a Viking feel with those knots almost seeming like shields.
Yeah, a little bit, absolutely. And up on the left-hand corner, you can see what I think might be, it could be a rooster. It might be which would definitely have significance in terms of St. Peter and his betrayal of Christ. Or it could be a peacock, kind of a highly stylized peacock.
Yep.
I think it looks more like a rooster.
Yeah, and I just zoomed in on it on another screen, and it's definitely rooster-like.
Yeah. And then to the right-hand side, you have an angel. A very again, I guess technically isn't every image of an angel stylized.
True. How do you pick a spirit?
Exactly. And now, what do you make of the image above Christ?
Yeah, I got nothing. I don't know.
Part of me, and I'm not sure about like the dedication or the devotion to the Sacred Heart, but I it looks like, are those flames coming up? Is it it's very interesting. Is it the Holy Spirit? And I don't know.
That's an unusual one. And
It is.
In looking at all different knotwork and stuff leading up to this episode, I'm going, I never saw anything quite like this.
No. And I really,
unique.
and I couldn't find any real information about that particular section. So my only recourse to this is I'm going to have to go to the Isle of Man and check this out.
There you go. Well, what's fascinating about that angel is it reminds me of when we did our episode and we were talking about angels and the description of the angels in Solomon's temple, where their wings are almost their arms, and very. As soon as I looked at that, it's like, oh, that feels a lot like what we saw from
exactly
that angel episode.
Yeah, and again, I think it's interesting they've got that information on the side of the cross as well, and I think that's how they know it's Grimm's cross. Oh,
okay. They would put the notation on the side.
Yeah. But it's neat, you can see this is the Scandinavians becoming, the Vikings becoming Christianized, and they, there were people on the Isle of Man, but they were, the Scandinavians also settled there as well.
Wow.
I think more the Norwegians, not the Danes, but I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then these
are nice.
I know. So these are both from Scotland. My apologies on the first one, because again, looking through all this stuff, you know how things just start to flow together.
Yeah.
But I just thought visually this was such an interesting cross. And the knotwork, just from the bottom up. There are two birds with their necks intertwined at the very bottom of the cross. Yeah. And then you kind of follow up, and this is all knotwork. But you've got like that little swirl, like the triskelion swirl in the center of the cross. But I love the bottom as well. How that's
it feels rooted.
Do you know that's exactly what I was thinking? It's growing up out of the ground. It's amazing.
And I like when they have the weave and knotwork on the circle, because then it really does feel connected to that laurel and fruited wreath on the Coptic curtain. Because you have that vining that happens.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that could be, we could, is it making us think of like the I am the vine, that sort of imagery that's coming across visually with the knotwork. And it looks like there's a little.
I did see something about when the knots are spiral, where it's about reaching out.
Neat.
So it's kind of, that's neat seeing that. You feel like the heart of this cross, the heart is reaching out to you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really, really, and I love the birds. So the only kind of, everything is knotwork on this one except for those two birds. And I wonder what kind of birds they are. I want to say swans just because of the neck, but then I also know the stylized pelicans can actually look a lot like that as well, can't they?
Yeah, sometimes the pelicans do come off more like swans. They could be cranes also. There were so many cranes used in the other Gospels.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the way their intertwined necks feel heart-shaped or even pretzel-like.
yeah, exactly, like a little prayer, hands of prayer.
Yep,
yeah. And then the second one, now this is a Pictish cross slab. So this is something, remember that St. Columcille was the apostle to the Picts, and you can see some of their imagery. Again, lots of detailed knotwork. If you look in the center of that cross, so certainly the circle in the background is not so much a circle as it is like maybe 4 circles. It reminds me a lot of the one that we saw in on Lindisfarne, when we were in Lindisfarne and we talked about it, the Viking stone. Yes. It was a very similar kind of the circles on the 4 circles on each corner of the cross, as opposed to a circle around the cross.
Right.
And so that actually makes me think of maybe who was making the one on Lindisfarne. Makes you think about that. But you can see all of the animals with their fantastic twisted bodies and necks. At the bottom right, there is this Celtic beast, I think is typically what it's called, but it might be like a seahorse. Not a seahorse.
Okay.
What's the oh my gosh, it's a legend.
Like a water horse kind of
Water horse, yes. Okay. I think there might be.
You can see the little tails down at the bottom. Yes,
exactly.
It's so funny because you really have to get your mind to look away from it as being knotted rope and see the little, once you like pick up the little face or the tail or a paw or something.
Yeah. And then the other creatures on the other side, I think might be maybe some kind of dog or it's hard to tell on that one what it is.
Would they have a wolf?
The wolves,
Or is that not Pictish?
Oh yeah. There was a wolf. There's a famous wolf, I think, in when we did the ones about the animals in the margins. There was a Pictish wolf in that one. And I just noticed as we're talking, if you go up to the top right-hand corner, that looks like a stag right in the corner. And then I can't see, just because the light is a bit funny to the left, I can't see what that animal is. But this one has all these, really beautiful animals surrounding the cross with all of its knotwork. And then in the center, like I said, you've got all the spirals. So neat. So beautiful. Nice. I mean, the variety. And look at how they've incorporated the local culture and the Far East, or the Near Eastern culture. They're bringing it all together.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, and that central circle with its 7 spirals, you really do feel like you have, all of creation, the 6 days, and then the rest. Yeah. Which would then lead to the 8th day.
Yeah. And do you know what? You just said, that just sparked something in my mind. Creation look at all these animals. Is there an animal that represents the sea, an animal that represents the land? I wonder if we could just figure out what these other two animals are. The sky, we just don't know. So this could be all of creation, but I guarantee you the people who saw this when it was made, they knew exactly what they were looking at.
Yes.
And it's for us to try to figure out what they were looking at.
Because we've lost the knowledge.
Exactly.
They had the knowledge. We've lost it.
Exactly. So and I just think, because of course on the right hand side, so we've got the water horse. So let's just say that represents creatures of the sea, like the days of creation. I wonder if there's something else next on top of it, another kind of animal.
Oh, it's definitely another animal.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a crane, but if it was a crane or something, that could be the air.
Yeah.
Creatures of the air. And then this other thing on the left-hand side, it's got feet, claws. So that would be the earth. And we just I can't tell what's above, but there's definitely a stag. I'm not sure what that would mean.
Right.
All kinds of so this is at the Aberlemno Church near Forfar, Angus in Scotland. Don't know where that is.
That's nice.
Yeah, but any excuse, I'm sure. My husband would like to take. Oh, well, you want to go check that out? Yeah, let's go check that out.
It's funny now. It's like I almost wish I had, always traveled with like a nice piece of paper and a soft chalky pen or pencil or something, so that I could do rubbings off of these things. It would be awesome. Yeah,
do people do that? You can still do that, and in some places they'll even give it to you, so you don't have to travel with it. They'll provide it for you. Yeah. But this is just so beautiful. I really love that one. Now I'm just kind of really drawn into that one. Again, getting lost in it.
Yes.
Really just, what does that mean? And
exactly what sacred art does. It draws you in and gets you to contemplate. Yeah.
And people have been contemplating this for a long time. Really beautiful.
Years plus?
At least. At least 1,200. And, and it's for us to, I would love to look at that and study it a bit further, and if we can get some confirmation and figure out that code. But I think we've got a little bit of it, really, because of what we've been doing, how we've been studying this. I really do think, going back to the insular manuscripts, they were putting these animals in to represent the different aspects of nature, the different aspects of creation. And I'm sure this is what's happening here.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's contemporary with a lot of the manuscripts and stuff. So, but before we go on, I'd like to let's thank our patrons, because they're so important to us, and we're so grateful for you. And we just want to take a moment to thank you, and because you make it possible for us to create the secrets of sacred art, including Attila H., Michael C., Joseph O., Wojciech D., and William M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Sacred Art and all the shows on StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So, now I
just want to say one thing for our patrons out there. Alix and I are planning a special little extra.
That's right.
Celtic design. So that's going to be for our patrons coming up soon. So if you're not a patron, be a patron.
Yeah.
We're going to do a little Celtic design drawing class. Make a little something special.
And as I always say, if I can do it, you can do it.
We're just going to make this up. No, I'm just kidding. We got some books we're working from that have beautiful instruction.
And we have lots of ideas. And if I can get something, if I can get everything together, I might even just have a little bit of an embroidery thing ready as well. We'll see.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. Yeah, maybe.
Teasers.
I know. Yes, a little bit of a teaser. Yeah. So this is, they're talking about the high crosses, and these crosses served lots of different functions within the communities where they were erected, and they were grave markers, as we've seen. They were commemorations. They guided pilgrims to their destination, but they were also they also depicted scenes from Scripture and the early church fathers. They were catechisms carved in stone, and they helped draw the local people into a deeper understanding of their faith, as well as connecting them to the larger Christian world. And these two crosses that we're going to be looking at, you can see images of the Old and New Testament. So this first cross is called Muiredach's High Cross, and it's from the Monsterbois Abbey ruins in Ireland. And if you just take a look, again, I have a link. There's so much to this. I think it's worth taking the time and just looking at it. This has a nice grid to kind of guide you through what we're looking at. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the panel number 1, just for an example, this depicts 2 hermit saints, possibly Saint Anthony of the Desert and Saint Paul of Thebes. And one is holding a loaf of bread, and there's a raven sitting on the ground beside them. And so that's at
the very top.
That's
of the
at the
cross
very
above
top.
The circle.
Yes, and what's interesting is on this cross, the very top, it looks like a hut. So remember, it's like 3D, so you can walk around. Every single side of this cross is covered with imagery. Mm-hmm. And at the top, it's literally like a hermitage. It's really neat.
And this beckons back to the big obelisk in Egypt and monuments in Rome, where you have this history laid out for you. Exactly.
This is something that people did to convey information. It wasn't just art for art's sake, because that's not art anyway. But anyway, that's another. Yes. Yeah, that's another conversation. But okay. And then if we look at panel number 7, I'm not going to go through each of these panels because it's just too much. We're going to look at some up close images later on a different cross. But panel number 7, which is the largest panel,
it's basically the cross beam of the cross.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it's the horizontal cross beam. This is the Last Judgment, and it has more than 45 figures in it, if you can imagine. And in the center is Christ standing, and he's holding a scepter and a cross. And on the head there's a bird above Christ's head, which is maybe a phoenix, maybe the Holy Spirit, who knows? And at his foot, there are kneeling figures with a book open. And it's thought that might be an angel holding up the book of life. And you've got the people on his left who are going to be going to, going to hell. And then the people on his right who are going to be going to heaven. So
I love how they have them moving directionally.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So the
lots of movement in this.
On his right hand, not the right side as you look at it, on his right hand.
On his right hand.
Moving toward him. They're being brought to him.
Yes.
And on his left, they're actually being shooed away by like a little demon.
Yeah. And it's hard to see on these images, but that's why I just want to encourage everybody, go to the show links, go to this page, and just spend some time looking at it up close. It's really, really neat. Mm-hmm. And I think one last panel, this represents, and I loved this one because I've never seen this before, but then it makes you want to go, oh, another idea to go into my vast book of ideas. Panel number 7 is a depiction of the adoration of the Magi.
Oh, number 9.
Sorry, 9.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Sorry about that. And
okay.
If you look very closely, you can kind of see a little seated figure with a baby. So that would be the Madonna and Child. But instead of 3 figures, which would be the traditional imagery for the Magi, although we know there's probably more than 3, just for artistic sake, we've got the 3. But there's a 4th figure. And that fourth figure in front of them is bearded. And that is thought to be Saint Joseph. And he is bringing the Magi to the Madonna and Child for adoration. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And if you have the chance to look at this, and please do, go look at this link and zoom in on it. When you zoom in and you see Saint Joseph's hand reaching out to Christ as if here he is.
Exactly.
This is the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, again, you've got to look at the, it's worth zooming in and taking your time. We're just giving you a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of a taster, so that when you are looking at these images, you've got a little more information to go on, if that makes any sense.
Or in case you're taking a trip to Ireland and you happen to get to see it in person.
Yes, exactly. And then you can tell the people, this is what you're looking at.
You'd be surprised, depending on if you have a tour guide with you.
Yeah.
If your tour guide is Catholic, if your tour guide is vaguely religious, or if your tour guide is secular, you will get 3 different stories on a lot of these elements.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good to gain some knowledge of your own before you go on these trips.
Yes.
Before someone talks you out of knowing the truth of something, because sometimes that will happen.
Yeah, and it's not so much up to, our idea of our interpretation of art is a very new idea. Again, when these crosses were being created, they weren't looking for people's opinion. They were conveying information to you, not to be interpreted by you, but to just simply be understood by you. And that's what's so important, because, oh my gosh, one of the things that I really struggled with all of this is the modern interpretation of these ancient crosses. And that's not how they, if somebody makes something today and they're like, you interpret it however you want to, fair enough. If that's how you want to create art, I don't have an issue with that at all. But that's not how these were created. They were not there for your own personal interpretation. They're there to convey information, and we have to do the work to understand the information that they were trying to get across to us.
Yes.
Rant over. Anyway, okay.
Let's flip this thing over.
Yes. So next, this is the other side of the same cross. And again, I'm not going to go into all of it because it's just so detailed, but let's just pull out a couple of really interesting pieces. Panel 11 is depicting, that's the depiction of the crucifixion of Christ. And he's, again, fully clothed. And his arms are stretched out straight. And you have the lance bearer and the sponge bearer on either side of him. And above, and I this is why I wanted to highlight this one, Kathryn, is there are these 2 little circular knobs on either side of Christ at the top. And it's thought that represents the sun and the moon.
Ah, okay. That takes us all the way back, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And so this has been this cross, some McAllister, a gentleman called McAllister, I think in the 19th century, spent a long time trying to decipher what we were looking at here. And there's a bird above the crucifixion on this high cross. And again, you're going to have to zoom into it, but it looks very similar to the high cross, the bird of the high cross on the Book of Kells.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And on the far ends of the middle of the cross, I think the little figurines on 7 and 8, I believe that those are kneeling figures. One is the Blessed Virgin and the other one is St. John the Evangelist.
Ah, okay. So a tradition that's still in use today on a lot of crosses.
Yeah.
I'll see Italian crosses of this style where you have Christ crucified in the center, and then on the far ends of the arms, you'll have the Virgin Mary and St. John.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. And let's see. Oh, one of the things I think is really neat. So the 13th panel is probably represents the parting commission of Christ and the ascension of before Christ ascends. And what's interesting is, so if this is, could you read the way he's robed and the way he's standing on the cross as also referencing his ascension into heaven?
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? That's just
yeah.
me, I don't know. But
it didn't end on the cross is what it's saying.
Exactly.
Christ was triumphant on the cross.
Yes, and just right above, and this is still on the panel 13, and right above St. John the Evangelist is a little eagle. You can't really see it in this image, but
Okay.
so that's referencing St. John the Evangelist is represented as the eagle. So, all right, so we can move on to the next.
So, I'm going to have to go look up one part of this little cross, though.
Which one?
At the very bottom there, panel 16.
Oh.
Right before the pedestal.
The little animals.
I know they look like two cats. I'm like,
They do.
I'm getting the Pagerbond song in my head again.
I know. And do you know what? I think I was surprised at how often cats showed up on these. And also, in the various books, I think the Irish monks kind of liked cats, which makes me like them even more. Yeah, so because I'm a cat person. So this is another scripture cross, and this one is the cross of Clonmacnoise, and this is at the ruins of an abbey that was founded by Saint Cyrian in 544. And the scripture cross was built around 900. So, again.
So the one we're looking at now, 900?
Is around 900. Okay. So this would have been a little after the Book of Kells. I can't remember.
Okay.
Getting all the dates mixed up. So this first one, this close-up, this is Christ being stripped of his robe. And you can see the two Roman soldiers with Christ in the middle, and he even looks like he's got his hands tied. And you can vaguely see the robes coming off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's the little folds down on either side of his hands.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So that's that one. And we can go to the next one. Okay. See, this is why I didn't want to go into because we're looking at this up close. I thought we don't need to look at everything up close. This will be a 5-day podcast. and here they're mocking Christ. And what I think is interesting is it looks like all three of them have halos, but I was just going to
say that. I'm like, what?
I think those might be their centurion helmets.
I don't know, Alex.
But
they
why
might
would they
be halos?
Why?
I don't know, but now I'm like going, why too? But
yeah, I was just thinking they might have
see
been
it as a helmet when I look at it close up.
Yeah. There wasn't anything.
Christ did know he had to go through this. This was his passion for us. So
yeah, and you can see the rod. You can see them smacking him, and yeah, fascinating.
Yeah,
this one. So this is a little bit from the Old Testament. And what I like about this is the faces have not been worn away as much as they have been on the other parts of this. And so you can see the cheeks and the mustache and the eyes, which I think is fantastic. And this is from the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. And this is
this is going back to another one of our episodes.
It is. It absolutely is. And it's the butler handing Pharaoh a drinking horn, which I think is funny because would the Pharaoh have a drinking horn? I guess he would be if he was living in northern England. or sorry, the Northern Europe, but maybe not in Egypt.
It's funny. It's the easiest way to explain it to the people that are there.
Exactly.
This is what we drink out of.
Yeah.
So to say that, hey, someone important's drinking out of something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not only that, I don't think you couldn't, not just anybody could drink out of drinking horns.
Uh-huh.
You know, they were, chieftains and people and people, they were ceremonial and things like that. So it's not just a cup, it's a drinking horn.
Yeah.
Because this is the pharaoh. This is the head
Nice.
chief. Yeah. This I think is fascinating. These are on opposite ends of the top of the cross.
So these are side faces.
Yes, these are side faces.
Okay.
And no pun intended, huh? Anyway.
I see the faces. Ha ha ha.
Yes. So this is my theory. Again, not me trying to put my own interpretation on it, but just thinking, you have two people and snakes entwined. And on the left-hand side, there is a cat eating something that he's killed. Mm-hmm. And I think these two faces represent Adam and Eve because of the snake. And then you have the introduction of death.
It does look like one continuous snake.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then to the right, what's fascinating is you have, again, the two faces. This looks like there might be two snakes. In fact, one looks like it's got almost like a little fish's tail, but I don't know. Again, the two faces. And then you have a hand above them, and the hand is surrounded by a halo. Mm-hmm. And that is the hand of God.
Yep.
So that's how I'm interpreting these two, not from my own, and this is what I feel it is. I just going from all of the information that we have and from what I've read. I think this is, and it would be quite fitting to have these images on either side of the cross, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. We think about, I believe you showed us a little, was it our animal menagerie when you showed the bronze serpent?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, and that was a foreshadowing of Christ on the cross. And
that's right. Yes, and to look up, oh my gosh. Wow. So cool. I know. So cool. It is. Yeah, don't you
the intertwining of it all.
I know. Yes. This is the kind of cross that you just stand in the rain and stare at. You wouldn't even notice, and you probably, trust me, if you're going to be going to Ireland, you're going to be standing in the rain. Sorry. Yeah. And then we have this image of David, the shepherd, and his sheep. And you can see the sheep, the sheep at the bottom. Look how their legs have formed these little Celtic knots.
Yeah. Little interwoven feet.
Yeah. And he's playing the pipes. It's just very neat. Yeah. So we've got the Old Testament and the New Testament in this. And again, this is a way to tell people the story, tell them what is going on, and all coming up. And I just thought about this, all of it emerging and surrounded by the cross. Yes.
It all points to and goes out from.
Yeah.
There it is.
Exactly. And I think, so these are some old crosses, some old Celtic crosses. And now we
what have we done?
So this, I wanted to bring this in, and this is no disrespect. I mean, I'm not putting this up here to criticize it, but I just wanted to show we go from these crosses that were conveying lots of information, lots of they were great. They were like a catechism for people, and they were beautifully executed, and they've lasted for over 1,000 years. And please God, they'll be around for another 1,000. And the whole idea of, so now I think a lot of people associate, especially in the United States, I don't know so much about over here, if I'm going to be honest, but they associate the Celtic culture solely with Ireland. And it's
Right.
not. They were all over Europe. And
Yep.
that is why they were bringing all of these influences into making the Celtic cross. They were very international people. Loved trade. They were known for their jewelry making. They loved beautiful things. That's one of the things that comes across from the ancient Celts. They really loved beautiful things. So it stands to reason that they could create some pretty beautiful things themselves.
Yeah.
But I think today it's kind of shoehorned into, or pigeonholed. Can't remember the right metaphor.
It's like a Hallmark holiday sometimes.
It is. And so much of that beauty is lost, and it just becomes this one thing, and it's so much more than that. Yeah. And, and what's interesting here is I love St. Patrick, pray for us. St. Patrick was Roman. Did you know that? Yeah, he was Roman, and he went to Ireland, but he wasn't Irish. and thanks be to God, he went to Ireland. And obviously you do have a lot of Americans who are very proud of their Irish heritage, which I think is awesome. Mm-hmm. But again, it's been reduced to it's been flattened, I think. I think when you go from what you can see in these ancient images of the crosses, and then it comes here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I really hope people would take the time to look at that American Irish flag and maybe learn their history. Find out when their ancestors came to America, why they came to America, and then look at the fact that even though maybe we've simplified this Celtic cross down, there's still some strong elements there that point to the truth of also what our Irish heritage family members were looking for, and that was they wanted to, worship God, and we still have a crown of thorns clearly almost in this design of this Celtic cross, and the shamrock still pointing to the Trinity, and the interweaving sometimes is called a sailor's knot or other knots, but that's all about us being stronger together in faith. So exactly.
It's kind of like, when we were talking about St. Andrew and St. Margaret of Scotland, you can go to St. Andrews and play golf or go to university, but you better visit St. Andrew and St. Margaret first. That's why it's there. Yeah. So Kathryn, why don't you talk about these? Because you found these images.
Yeah, I figured, I know there's enough Irish that have come to the United States, and my husband has a lot of Irish heritage, and it's going to be fun for me to tell him how his Irish and French heritage actually go together.
They're the same thing.
They're the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So the good old Gannons and the Laffreys go together. So
There you go.
But I just did a search looking for, I wanted to know what's the biggest Celtic cross in the States, and always some cemetery monuments. And here we have the memorial of Thomas Frederick Davies, and he was an Episcopalian bishop in Michigan in the late 1800s in Detroit, Michigan, and this is his memorial that's put up.
Yeah.
So a nice, simplified cross there. They added a bishop's
crozier, not crozier.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
His mitre.
Thank you.
Surprisingly, the keys to the intersecting keys of Peter are on there too.
Okay.
I don't know if that's normal symbolism for an Episcopalian bishop.
I don't know. I was high Anglican, so we thought we were Catholic anyway.
Okay. And then in the center, they did the IHS.
Yes.
Which is, representing Christ's name. So very nicely done. Beautiful monument.
It is. It's lovely.
And then what comes up? Another Elmwood Cemetery. I'm going, what is it with Elmwood?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is
there some place in Ireland called Elmwood also?
I'm just thinking, well, maybe there. I was really basic. I was like, oh, maybe there are a lot of elms around.
All right, if you're Irish American, and you know something about Elmwood, please send us a message.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
So this other one is in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Another
Okay.
great, beautiful looking monument. And looking at it, has a lot of similarities. You can see that they didn't highly carve the sides of these like we saw in
No.
the originals. So these are, some 1,000 years newer than what we were just looking at.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of these, or 100 some years. But what was interesting about this one is like, okay, looks familiar. And we were at church and on our way to breakfast after Mass, and I went, hold the car. Wait a minute. So
Yeah.
this is actually at little St. Patrick's Church in Parnell, Michigan, where I go to Mass. And this beautiful monument is for one of the early pastors of the church who helped build the school. And so he was there, I think, for the building that's currently standing also. They went through 3 buildings. First 2 because of fire.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It usually happens. The very first one, I think, was a log structure.
Were we talking about that on one?
Well, a lot of the early churches in Michigan started off as log structures,
That's
including even
right.
St.
Yeah.
Anne's in downtown Detroit started as a log
That's
cabin.
what it was. That's
Yep,
where.
yep.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's neat to see that happens. Michigan had a lot of timber, still has a lot of timber.
And I
Great
guess it had a lot of
timbering
fires too.
And a lot of fires. Doggone it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But so beautiful memorial for Reverend James Byrne. And around him are other memorials for other ordained priests.
I love that.
So
I love
it's neat that they're all together like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was neat because I was looking up, okay, what do different Celtic knots mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll see the one where it's hard to make out sometimes, but if you look at the bottom square in the middle image,
Mm-hmm.
if you look carefully, you can almost see like 2 squarish looking hearts, one up, one down, interlocked together.
Yep.
Okay, so that's talking about a lot of times you'll see it for weddings and things like that. That binding love. I loved how that imagery is used with the cross
In the middle.
in the center.
Yeah.
So it's like his binding love to Christ as a ordained minister.
Yeah. Yeah. That
And
Maltese
again,
cross.
Right?
Yeah.
Whoa, that connects way back to that stone. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the center panel there kind of made me think about the carpet pages, because this is just, if you get the chance to look at this and zoom in on it, hopefully you can pause the video and take the time to zoom in. It's, just tiny little detailed carvings of intersecting little crosses and things to make up that
Yeah.
center panel.
It's very faint, but it's lovely. It's really,
Yeah.
really delicate. Yeah.
And then above that feels like he must have had a Marian connection,
Yeah.
because it looks like a 4-petaled rose. You don't really see 4-petaled roses very often. And the one place I know where you can see a 4-petaled rose is on the robe of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
It
other
also
than that,
kind of, sorry, I was going to say, it also kind of
ahead.
looks a little bit like the English rose.
right, it's very similar in design,
Yeah.
except English rose always has 5 petals.
That's true. Yeah.
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 So the only other thing it made me think of, you see them a lot all over the U.S. I don't know if you see them in. Do you guys have the dogwood trees?
No. Dogwood over here is like a little shrub.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I know what a dogwood looks like.
You
yeah.
know what a
But
dogwood
yes,
is, because they're like in the south they're a little different than the ones in the north even, but the 4-petaled white flower with the wounds of Christ on the
Yeah.
tips
Yeah.
of the petals. Yeah.
Exactly. Looking at this again, if you look at both knots, they're the same design, but I would say the bottom one is much more masculine.
Yes.
And the top one is much more feminine, but it's the same thing, just in different form, I guess.
Yeah, and it takes me back to something we learned in our architecture class for our master's program,
Mm-hmm.
and that you always put a more masculine column on the bottom and then a more feminine column for the next layer up. And it's like,
there you go.
God, it's amazing. It all just keeps coming around.
Yeah. Oh, and Kathryn, sorry.
Yeah.
Look at the top of this cross. It looks just like the hermit's hut.
Yes. That's another reason I was like, oh my goodness, this looks just like the older cross.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny how it's practical and meaningful at the same time.
Yeah.
So having that sloped roof, you talked about the snow earlier. The snow and rain, think about it. It's going to keep the top of that cross from wearing down.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
help
Exactly.
it last a little longer. But then you also feel like, this is all of us intertwined together in the house of God.
Exactly.
So,
The ties that bind.
Beautiful. But so that last image though, I'm looking at those circles, and we saw the 5 circles on a lot of other crosses.
Mm-hmm.
Central one, always made me think of Christ. We got the IHS and the central one here.
Yeah.
But I did find an article where they talked about those circles being like the time of day kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have these 3 suns for morning, midday, and evening. And then at the bottom, what looks like a little basket would be the moon for midnight. So it's
that's
the
really
dark of night.
interesting. Yeah.
You
Even
have
going,
would you put a light under a bushel basket?
exactly. Yeah. It's interesting because going back to the St. Martin's cross on Iona, it has that.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, I just associated it with like the 5 wounds of Christ, but it could be both. Again, things have multiple meanings, and people could look at them and draw out different multiple images and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's that sun and moon again with the cross.
Yeah, there you go. It never goes away. It never goes away. Now that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. And I hope that when people, this has been a fun deep dive, like doing all of this Celtic stuff. And over the time, as I've been doing it, as we've been doing the research and I've been doing kind of more the legwork and everything, I really appreciate how strongly people feel for their Celtic, for their Irish heritage. Because over here, nobody's going to say they're Celtic. That would just be really weird. Nobody would say that. But
wait, even if they lived in a Celtic area and their family was there forever, they still wouldn't say they were Celtic.
No, they probably would say they're British.
No Pictish either?
No, they don't. They just, they don't really, I don't know. They just don't really view it that way. I guess, when you were somewhere, it's kind of like, I can't remember if it was you or someone else came over from America, and I had to go and get something out of one of the buildings on our property. And I have this old key. Was it you? And you were like, oh my gosh, look at that key. And the key's like 300 years old, but the lock on the door is 300 years old. But you just don't think about it. Like, I just need to go unlock the door. So it's just a little bit of a different thing. But I can appreciate the how valuable people's heritage is and the strong feelings behind it. But I also have to say, it's really important to understand that these monks were Catholic. And they were Christians and they were Catholic. And everything points to that. Even and you can take from it what you want in your own heritage. But also as Catholics, we need to embrace this part of our family because it's beautiful, and they were doing a lot of things right, lot of things right, and we love them for it, and so there you go. That's all I have to say.
That's everything.
Can't wait to. And you know what? This is the thing. Like when we start talking about Spanish art, Polish art, German art, Norwegian art, African art, Asian art, that's all part of our family. And I can't wait to find out more about them in the future.
Yeah. It's fun to categorize it, but it's also fun to know we're all together. This is all us.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
Exactly. This is the beauty of Catholicism. The real beauty of Catholicism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then, hey, you're out there. You've seen works like this, or maybe you have a monument also like this in your cemetery somewhere, message us. Send us an email.
Yeah, we're getting some
Sacred
neat
Art.
conversations on Discord.
Yeah. So email us at sacredart@sqpn.com, or please, like Alix said, join us on Discord. I had a wonderful little message come through on Discord.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, where they were using it. She watched it and was really helping her understand stuff, and then actually shared a really neat picture of the kids doing their own version of like a what's the big capital letter called before you start a paragraph in these gospels? There's a special name for it.
Gosh. Oh, I know. I lost
way to
it.
go.
Sorry. I'm trying to look it up.
We were having too much fun with crosses. I
know.
lost my brain.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, this was taking up a lot of my brain this week.
But yeah, so it's kind of like an illuminated manuscript lesson she did with the kids. And, I was a teacher for a long time. Alix taught her girls, and we love sharing information with people. And if you have someone who wants to look for an idea for a lesson plan, or have them share this would be a great way to kind of maybe get some kids thinking about different topics of sacred art.
Yeah. And I also have to, just before we say goodbye, I have to say I had a really neat, really encouraging conversation with someone who listens to this show. And she came into the bookshop and she said, it was music to my ears. She said, watching your show has lit a fire in me. And now when I walk into a church, I want to know what I'm looking at. And she said she went into some church and she was asking the guide, like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And the person said, why are you asking all these questions? And she said, because I was listening to this podcast and they are telling me stuff and I want you to point out what I should be looking for. And I said, that's exactly what we were hoping for. So learning, people learning and then implementing what they've learned and then going out and searching and finding things themselves. We love it. We absolutely love it.
Yes. All right. So we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing Durham Cathedral, the summation of all things. Until then, I'm Kathryn Laffrey.
And I'm Alix Murray. And we hope you find something beautiful. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.